In stories, this is like one of the top 10. I want to say also a special l'chaim l'schus. Shalom Mordechai Alevi ben Rivka. Should be a year of geula for him. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. Say, what's the definition of a good story, a real story, a deep story? What they call by Chassidim Achsider Shemaisa. The definition is, it's a story, an event in which the soul surprises the mind. So we tell stories so that our own soul should be able to surprise our own minds, our own concept of how life. So this fits, this title, this description, I think is particularly suitable for the following story, which will also explain the secret of Nisach HaMayim and Hashois HaMayim Litzmoi. And I see in the meantime the heavenly Nisach HaMayim stopped so that we can do some more earthly Nisach HaMayim. So here's the Maisa. It's an Alter Chassidish Maisa. There was a Yid, we'll call him Moishelah. Like every good story. Oh, Moishelah even had music in the background. I don't know if when the story happened there was music, but as we recount the story there's music, because when the story happened there was also music. It was just a different type of music. So Moishelah was a very poor Jew, and a very God-fearing Jew, an Erlich Yid. But his favorite Yom Tov in the world was Sukkos. And his favorite mitzvah in the world, if you could say so, was the lulav and the esrog. There's always that special chavivus, the special affection that a Jew has the first day of Sukkos, when he or she picks up the lulav and the esrog and the hadus and the arava. There's something special. And even the second day, the third day, the fourth day, there's an energy that a sensitive soul feels with the Daled Minim. And the last day of Shana Rabbah, when you shake lulav the last time, there's a certain, I'm not going to say melancholy, but a certain sense of gaguyim, of yearning for the mitzvah. It's funny, you pick up a lulav Isruchag, it's a joke. Pick up a lulav Isruchag, it doesn't mean anything. But Sukkos, it's Nishkin lulav, it's not a palm branch, it's a lulav. It's a cheftze from Daled Minim. It's a cheftze from Lulav Tzarech Eget. It's a whole different mitzvah. He loved Sukkos. He loved the Daled Minim. He would always save up money to be able to buy the most beautiful, exquisite, splendorous esrog in the world. And Baruch Hashem, every year there was a nice supply of esrogim. It wasn't a great challenge. One year it was a difficult winter. Just like this year in Italy, Calabria suffered a lot because of frostbite, because of an icy winter. Shaloi haya kamaisa since 1963, such a winter in Italy. Okay, but Baruch Hashem, le'alman Yisrael, we have Eretz Yisrael, we have Morocco. But Italy, Calabria, southern Italy wasn't easy. Anyway, it was a difficult winter that year, and the supply of esrogim diminished, and the community got only a few esrogim, and the price went flying high. And when Moishelah came to buy his esrog from the esrog merchant, he was astounded to hear that the esrog cost 1,000 ruble. 1,000 ruble was impossible. It was impossible for him to buy an esrog for 1,000 ruble. This wasn't the most perfect esrog. It was epis and esrog. Came home and he was very dejected. There was maybe a few esrogim in the city. Everybody would have to share an esrog, but he wanted his own esrog, as he did for every single year for decades. Nope. Erev Sukkos, he can't come to terms with the fact that he doesn't have an esrog. He goes home, finishes building his sukkah, then he has an idea. He looks at his tefillin. He says, you know, for the next 9 days, I don't have to put on tefillin. Let me sell my tefillin, get 1,000 ruble, buy an esrog. After Sukkot, I'll worry about how to get another 1,000 ruble to get back my tefillin. But in the meantime, I'll have an esrog. Esrog is the mitzvah Iveris. It's mitzvah Hayoim. It's the unique mitzvah of Sukkot. Moshe goes. He sells his tefillin. Gets 1,000 ruble. Goes to the merchant. Pays him 1,000 ruble. Comes home with an esrog. Nobody was buying the esrog. He managed to get a good esrog. Beautiful esrog, more than he even expected. He's so excited. Runs into the house. He wants to tell his wife. He got an esrog. His wife wasn't home. He's probably shopping for Yom Tov. He puts the esrog down on the kitchen counter. And he goes to do his things, whatever he has to do. Be ma'agad the lulav, finish up the sukkah, cook some fish for sukkahs, gain a mikveh, whatever he had to do for sukkahs. Wife comes home, runs in, he says, you wouldn't believe. Moiridik, you wouldn't believe it. I have an esrog for sukkahs. Really? How? How much was it? You said it was so expensive. It was 1,000 ruble. I know, how in the world did you get 1,000 ruble? So I sold my tefillin. Sold my tefillin, I got the esrog. You sold your tefillin to get your esrog? How are you gonna wear tefillin? I mean, tefillin you need a whole year. Esrog is 7 days, tefillin is a whole year. Where are you gonna get 1,000 ruble for tefillin now? What are you gonna do every day for tefillin? You're gonna wait every day for after Shachas borrow somebody's tefillin? He says, listen, I put on tefillin this morning. For the next 9 days, I have no tefillin. He didn't put on tefillin chalamayit. The das shittas azoya. I don't have tefillin. Right now, the mitzvah is lulav, esrog, hadas, harava. That's what I need to do. The only way I can go do the mitzvah now is if I sell my tefillin. So I sold my tefillin because the mitzvah of the moment is mitzvah's daled min. Esrog, lulav, hadas, harava. She's like, that's amazing. That's incredible. What does the esrog look like? It's a beauty. It's a hada, it's a beauty. Let me see the esrog. Let me see the esrog. He says, it's right here. It's right here on the counter. She says, where? He runs to the counter. He looks. There's no esrog. He says, it was right here. The esrog was right here. I put it down. You should be able to see it. He says, this was your esrog? He says, yeah. Like, Moshe, you won't believe this. I was home. I had to make a compote on applesauce. I decided I need lemon to enhance it. I saw on the counter a lemon. It was a nice lemon. I didn't even suspect. It was an esrog. Where did you come to have an esrog? I knew you gave up on esrog. I took it. I squeezed it into the compote, into the applesauce. I squeezed some into the salad. I cut it into pieces. Not too much liquid was coming out. I had to get all the liquid out. I cut it up. I threw out the peels in the garbage. I didn't know it was your esrog. I thought it was a lemon sitting on the counter. So Moshe goes over to his wife and he gives her a hug and he says, I appreciate you very much and I cherish you very much and I love you very much. Thank you for being such a special partner in my life, such a special wife, such a special soulmate. She looks at him and she says, Moshe, du bist mishuggah gevar. Are you insane? Are you not human? You're not angry at me? You don't want to holler? You don't want to scream? You don't want a divorce? You don't want to run out of this house? You don't want to jump on the table and say, how can you do this? I don't understand you. What are you thinking? Explain to me your emotional process. How is this processed? So Moshe tells his wife, this is what he says. When I had tefillin, I looked at the tefillin, I thought about the esrog, and I said the mitzvah of the moment is to buy an esrog. So I sold my tefillin and I bought an esrog. And then when you told me that by mistake you cut up the esrog and you threw it in the garbage and you used the rest, now the mitzvah of the moment is to love my wife. The mitzvah of the moment right now is to connect to my wife. That's what I do. I do the mitzvah of the moment. The mitzvah of the moment is to be close to my wife. That's right. Now, when you analyze stories, you ruin them. But I'm still going to analyze the story because I want to bring the story down to our lives. What did Moshe understand that so many of us do in such a scenario? You bought an esrog not for $1,000, for $400. Not for, and the $400 is not a half a year's salary. It's money, but it's not a half a year's salary. And your wife by mistake the pitum or uses it as lemon. What would be your response? At best, you people would be different ways, which I'm not going to graphically describe now. Moshe wasn't a tzaddik of a generation. I'll tell you what he was. Moshe was not attached to a particular form of religion. For Moshe, serving Hashem didn't have to look a certain way. Moshe lived in the moment and he asked himself one question. What does God want from me this moment? He wasn't attached to any particular structure or form. This is it. That's a form of worship, of idolatry. He didn't worship the tefillin. He didn't worship the esrog. He wasn't attached and bound up and therefore trapped by what avodas Hashem has to look like. Every moment I ask, what is the moment's heartbeat? I want to dance to the beat of this moment, to live with God right now, this second. He ends up that sukkah without tefillin. He ends up without an esrog. He doesn't have tefillin, he doesn't have an esrog. But he has Hashem. And he has a wife too. Other people with tefillin might end up with an esrog. They would lose their marriage and they would lose their God. He didn't have an esrog. He didn't have tefillin. But he had God. He was tuned in to the energy, to the calling, to the divine opportunity of the moment. He didn't get drunk on wine. He got drunk on the divine. And that's the difference. And that's the difference between Nisach HaYayin and Nisach HaMayim. The Balatanya, the Alter Rebbe says in the Kutei Torah, in the Maimer Bayoim Hashmini Atzeres Tiyeh Lachem, he says a gewaldige word, open your hearts. We say in Nishmas, Kol Berech L'chot Tichra, V'chol Koimo L'fanecha Tishtachava. You remember? I'm going to say it again on Yom Tov. What does it mean? Every knee will kneel to you, and every koima, these are coming koima, every, not shimini, this is koiman. Upright. Every stature, every person standing upright and erect, this koima, the full height of a person, will prostrate to you, will bow down to you. As the Balatanya, what's the difference between Kol Berech L'Chotichra v'Chol Koimo L'Fanecha Tishtachava? So he says physically, when you kneel with your knee, So you kneel with your knee, but your body remains erect. Your legs are prostrated. Your legs are kneel. You kneel. Your berech is tichra. That's kriya. Anachnu koira. And mishtachavim is the whole body goes down. What's the difference? Every Jew kneels to God. V'chulam mekablim aleim el malchus shamayim. Kulam. Who's kulam? Kulam. Everybody. Everybody. In their own way. Kulam. We don't lie in the middle of davening. When we say v'chulam, it means v'chulam. V'chulam mekablim aleim el malchus shamayim. Ayid, the Balatanya said, Ayid nishte will or nishte can sein abgescheit von Alakus. A Jew can't, nor does he want to be separate from godliness. Innately, he or she is connected. But what does it mean? Kol berech, every knee lechotichra. I kneel to you. I accept your sovereignty. I do your mitzvahs. I follow your Torah. But my body still remains in its position, in its comfort zone. I worship you. I'll buy tefillin. I'll sell tefillin. I'll buy an esrog. But if it doesn't work out, who is my wife going to get it? Who is my child going to get it? I remain stuck still in my own model of what Judaism looks like, of what God looks like, of what religion looks like. Means you're completely flexible. You're completely flexible. You're not stuck. You're not stuck. Every moment is new. Right now, I don't have tefillin. I don't have an esrog. What's left? Depression, anger, fury, ire, melancholy, despair. What's left? I'm completely flexible. I'm completely open. Now the mitzvah is, I embrace my wife. That's where I find Hashem. I seize the moment right now. Was this a simmer? It's a battery, it's not a simmer? Okay. You told us Yaakov Yosef, you can hear? You told us Yaakov Yosef brings from the Baal Shem Tov. The Gemara says in Tainis Daf Chaf, a person should be as soft as a reed, and not as tough, not as harsh, not as inflexible as an erez. An erez is a cedar tree. Literally it means be flexible in life, be reasonable in life. Don't be uncompromising. Don't be an action. Don't be stubborn. Listen to another opinion. Be flexible. Be reasonable. That's literal interpretation. Told the Yaakov Yosef, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef of Pulma, brings from his Rebbe the Baal Shem Tov a few times, that this is not just an instruction about human behavior. Bein Adam lachaveira. It's also an instruction Bein Adam lamakam. La'olam ye'yadam rach kekana v'ayekasha ke'erez means don't be stiff in your avodas Hashem. Don't think that serving God always means the same thing. To really live with Hashem means to really live with Hashem every single moment anew. And friends, it may sound good what I'm saying, but it's not easy to implement and to even understand it, to internalize. You're sitting here and looking at me. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, if you don't understand what I'm saying. If you do understand what I'm saying, I don't know if you're internalizing what I'm saying or you're not internalizing what I'm saying. If you're internalizing what I'm saying, I'm not sure you know how to implement what I'm saying. And if you know how to implement what I'm saying, I'm not sure you're really emoting, you're experiencing the concept, so that it can translate into thought, speech, and action. But it's not an easy thing, because we get stuck on the format. We get stuck on the structure. Because there is a structure. Sukkos, you shake esrog. In the middle of the week, you put on tefillin. There's a structure. But there is God in the structure. The structure is a tool to connect to infinity. There is the divine in the structure. And therefore, He was always open to what does it mean to live right now. I just lost my esrog. My whole sukkah is destroyed. Nicht chab tefillin, nicht chab esrog. What do I have left? For one person, I got nothing left. I got a miserable Yom Tov, and I have a wife to blame. Baruch Hashem, you can't blame yourself. I said Shabbos, my pittim broke the first day. It was a Calabria esrog. It was very expensive. Double, triple what I usually pay because of the winter in Calabria was very, very difficult. And therefore most esrogim orchards were ruined. Or they were very, very ugly or small. I don't want to say ugly. But they were very blemished and small and green esrogim. But I got a nice, big, beautiful esrog for a lot of money. The Italian merchant saved it for me. I saw that the pittim was very, very shaky. I told him these types of pittim have to fall off on the tree. He says, you're right, but under the circumstances it didn't. So I knew how sensitive it was. I benched the first day on the esrog. I shook lulav the first day. I did the halal and the shyness. And after davening, I picked up my esrog to take it home. It was wrapped and wrapped again and wrapped again. I thought it was wonderful. And I was holding a lot of stuff, and the esrog fell from my hand. And I thought it's not an issue because I wrapped it well. And then I took a look at it, and I saw that the pittim was broken, and there went my esrog. But I didn't have my wife to blame. Only my own shlemazolos. And when it comes to yourself, you always find a way to cover it up. Suddenly you find a way to live with it. On all sins, love covers up. But if your child does it, ooh. Baruch Hashem, I did it myself. I'm happy I did it myself. I'm doing now a little therapy to be able to get over it. I did it myself, but this person, his wife, used it, and she didn't stop. She used it for applesauce, for heaven's sake. You want to know how it tasted? If he ate it. If he ate the applesauce. That's a good question. That's a good question. You want to know if he ate the applesauce. My guess is it was hard for him to eat the applesauce. It was probably hard for him to eat the applesauce. But if he can hug his wife after this happened, he could probably get himself to eat the applesauce also, to show appreciation to his wife who made the applesauce. That's my guess. You agree? Good. But this man wasn't connected to any particular structure that he worshipped. He lived with Hashem literally every moment. So now we come to Nisach HaMayim. So this is the difference between wine and water. You see, water doesn't have a fixed shape. You pour water, you put it in one type of cup, it has one shape, another cup, it has another shape. Every liquid really doesn't have a shape. Wine too, but there's a difference. Water doesn't have a color. It doesn't have a color. What's the color of water? Water is colorless. Next, water is tasteless. Water is scentless. It's aromaless. It has no fragrance. It's colorless. It's scentless. It's tasteless. Wine. Ooh, wine has a color. Beautiful color. It has a smell. A taste. Ve'etnach. There's two types of Judaism. There's a Yiddishkeit of Nisuch HaYayin. The Yiddishkeit of Nisuch HaMayim. A Yiddishkeit of Nisuch HaYayin has a color. It has a shape, a color, a taste, a smell. This is what makes it beautiful. This is what makes it delicious. It's the look. You don't just drink wine. You look at the wine. You smell the wine. You taste the wine. Water. I'll push it to you. But when you take a little water, you do with it a mitzvah, a bissel vasa. The Gemara says that the well of Shinuach, the flow was very, very small. It was the size of an isser. An isser is a little coin, like between a dime and a quarter. A bissel vasa. But he did a mitzvah with this water. He's ecstatic with joy. Yiddish guy doesn't have a color, a shape, a smell, a taste. It's what Hashem wants right now from me at this moment. I'm not stuck in any particular shape. I'm completely open. I'm completely free. And this is the meaning. The Gemara says in Sukkah, The Bakiva says, and it's brought in Medrash and Parshas Emor, it's a Peladika Medrash. Hello. You here? It's working. The Gemara says, the Medrash says, Pri Eitz Hadar, yeah. Pri Eitz Hadar Zakadosh Baruch Hu. Kapis Tmarim Zakadosh Baruch Hu. Anaf Eitz Hava Zakadosh Baruch Hu. Arvei Nachal Zakadosh Baruch Hu. And everyone he brings a pasuk that the esrog is Hashem, the lulav represents Hashem, the hadas represents. What's the point? So just connect to Hashem, daven to Hashem. You take a lulav and a esrog and a hadas and a harava with all the din and what the esrog has to look like, what the lulav has to look like, what the hadas has to look like, and then you tell me Zakadosh Baruch Hu, Zakadosh Baruch Hu, Zakadosh Baruch Hu. But that's the whole chiddush of Sukkot. That's the chiddush of Nisach HaMayim. Life comes in different forms. Life comes in different colors. Life comes in different smells. Life comes in different tastes. There are moments of life like the esrog that have a smell and a taste. Some of you are familiar with them. Nishkin Tam or Nishkin Reach. You know, like 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the office. Or in yeshiva sometimes. Like in the afternoon, you're not tired enough to fall asleep, but you're tired enough to be in a bad mood. You know that? Meaning they leave good impressions. Their smell is wonderful. But once you taste them, oh my God. It's people, first impressions, they give off wonderful impressions. Anybody here is a good schmoozer? Anybody? You come to a mitzvah, you know how to schmooze everybody. But the moment somebody develops a relationship with you, the taste is take them in, they're good. And there are those who have both, and there are those who lack both. We have different moments in life, different experiences in life. Zog the Gemara, what's Sukkos? Pri Eitz Hadar, Zakadosh Baruch Hu. Anaf Eitz Hava, Zakadosh Baruch Hu. Arvei Nachal, Zakadosh Baruch Hu. That's the chiddush of Maya. If you could become happy from pouring water, then you'll be his wife took the esrog and made kampot. Das ist euch Zakadosh Baruch Hu. It's euch Zakadosh Baruch Hu. Not life is dead. Yiddishkeit is finished. His relationship is destroyed. Das ist euch Zakadosh Baruch Hu. The Simchas Ishta. Now even more than other times, because she's probably heartbroken and guilty, like the minig by Yidden, she's guilty for what she did, especially in this situation. And be'etzem, every idea in Teres HaNister has an expression also in Halacha and Nigla. The Gemara says in Sukkah Dafka, Masechta Sukkah Daf Chafei, everybody knows the Gemara, Chafei Amid Ha'isik b'mitzvah, Patem en ha-mitzvah. The Gemara brings 2 psukim, B'shiftecha b'veisecha, B'lechtecha b'derech, B'shiftecha b'veisecha, Prat lo'isik b'mitzvah, B'lechtecha b'derech, Prat l'chasem. The Gemara brings a second pasuk, Vayiyu anoshim, the people who were tamei, who couldn't do the carbon pesach, they were isik b'mitzvah, Tumas meis, they were burying a mace, so Patem en ha-mitzvah, they were Patem the carbon pesach. Why are isik b'mitzvah, Patem en ha-mitzvah? Why? You're doing what? Mitzvah, you're exempt from another mitzvah. What's the Havana in it? So there's different explanations. The Rogatchover Gon at Tzafos Panayach says, a haflu dikavard. He brings a raya from a Gemara in Menachos. I'm not going to get into the details. But the Nekuda the Rogatchover says is, you know why I say mitzvah patam na mitzvah? Because it's like you're doing the other mitzvah also. When you're doing one mitzvah, you're exempt from doing another mitzvah that comes your way, because it's like you're fulfilling the other mitzvah. Why? When you look at mitzvahs, you could see two things. You could look at the software, you could look at the hardware. Every mitzvah you say a bracha. Asher kedeshanu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu l'aniach tefillin. Asher kedeshanu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu l'sativ b'tzitzis. Kedeshanu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbos kodesh. You could look at the l'hadlik ner shel Shabbos kodesh l'aniach tefillin l'sativ b'tzitzis l'kvaya mezuzah afrashas chala. It's a different. This is chala. This is lighting candles. This is mezuzah. This is tefillin. You can also look on the Asher kedeshanu b'mitzvaysav. Kedeshanu, the Tanya says, is from the word kiddushin. He married us through his mitzvahs. Kiddushin, he betrothed us. He was mekadosh us through his mitzvahs. What's the difference if your wife asks you to buy a bottle of milk or she asks you to buy her a milkshake? What's the difference if she asks you to buy a falafel or she asks you to buy challah? What if she asks you to buy her pretzels or she asks you to buy you tofu? She asks you to buy roses or she asks you to buy popcorn? It's an opportunity to connect. In every mitzvah is the same. Because if you really understand the mohus of a mitzvah, every mitzvah is every other mitzvah. Which agav, Tosfos says over there that Isaac mitzvah patim and mitzvah means if you don't have an opportunity to do the other mitzvah. If you're doing a mitzvah, and you don't have an opportunity to do another mitzvah, so then you don't do the other mitzvah. The person is carrying the aron and it's time for Krishna. He can't say Krishna, he's carrying the aron, so he's not patim from Krishna. The Ran argues with Tosfos. The Ran says that's not a chiddush. What should you do? Abandon the first mitzvah. You don't need a pasuk. The Ran says Isaac mitzvah patim and a mitzvah means even if you could do the second mitzvah, you patim and a mitzvah. So everybody wonders what's the svara saran. You could do the second mitzvah, but since you're Isaac mitzvah, you patim and a mitzvah. So there's a shtickle from the Stipling, Kehelis Yaakov, a whole shtickle. Other acharonim discuss it. The Hashoava says the vart is when you're doing the Isaac mitzvah, you're doing the other mitzvah. So you put them in a mitzvah, even if you could do the other mitzvah. Because every mitzvah on this essential level is every other mitzvah. If you could connect to the energy, to the divinity, to the kedushan of a mitzvah, of every mitzvah is every other mitzvah. It's another way of serving Hashem. Mayim, not yayim. When there's mayim, you're happy every moment. You're not drunk on wine, you're drunk on the divine. You're not drunk from an external stimulant, you're drunk on life. Because every moment of life is a new moment. And every moment of life is an opportunity to connect. And every moment of life gives you a tremendous potential to tune into the unique energy of that moment. Now the energy of that moment may come with pain. There may be a painful experience here. It wasn't easy to lose your tefillin and lose your esrog on Erev Sukkot, as they say in English. No good deed goes unpunished. He sells his tefillin, he buys an esrog, he loses his esrog as geblieben on house. And yet he had the courage to be able to tune in to that moment and contain the experience and realize that this affords him an opportunity to connect to his wife. What could have he done? He could have lost his tefillin, lost his esrog, and lost his marriage, and lost his sukkahs. And what would he be left with? An angry, bitter, sour Jew. You ever saw that? Cursing the world in the name of God. Always. Mad at the world, angry at the world, in the name of Hashem, because he's such a good guy. He lost everybody. He lost God. That moment of anger, which is a normal human moment, he's detached. He loses connection with oneness. Now it's a normal human emotion. He understood that it's a human emotion, but he could look at the human emotion and choose to go to a deeper place. And the deeper place that he chose is my relationship with God at this moment didn't change. He's here, he's present, in the kapot, in the salad. L'lamdach that Hashem exists even in kapot. Even when the juice squeezed in the kapot is not a lemon but an esrog. And it's Erev Sukkot, it's not Yisro Chag of Sukkot when you're supposed to make jam. Al Pizeh, Agav, an interesting sugya, but again, Nisach Hamayim and Nisach Hayayim were done together. When? By the Talmud Shel Shachar. But the Gemara says that if you do Nisach Hamayim by night, the night before, they take water and they pour water the night of Sukkot to fulfill the mitzvah. Nisach Hayayim not. Nisach Hayayim you can only do in the morning, you can do it the night after, but not the night before. That's what the Gemara says. So the Shagas Aryeh in the Sefer Gvuras Ariyah Masechta Tainis, Shagas Aryeh says, what's the difference? So he says, Nisuch HaYayin is Choivas HaZevach. Nisuch HaMayim is Choivas HaYoim. You understand? Nisuch HaYayin is a din in the carbon. Every carbon, every animal offering comes with nesachim, comes with wine pourings. Like we say, v'niska, nesacha. It's a Choivas HaZevach. When is the first time you can be makam the carbon tamid in the morning? You can't do it the night before. B'yoyim tzavos, you have to do it by day. So when could you bring the yayin? Only by day. From the morning on, even if you do it the night after. But Nisuch HaMayim is not Choivas HaZevach. It's Choivas HaYoim. It's a din in Sukkos. It's not a din in the carbon tamid. When the Sukkos begin? Sukkos begins at night. So b'di'evet, you could do Nisuch HaMayim even the night before. Because it's not a din in the carbon, it's a din in the day. That's a Shagas Aryeh of Chag.
So then why only b'di'evet?
Why only b'di'evet? Because the din of Nesachim was said with Tamid Shel Shachar. The Zman of Nesachim was Tamid Shel Shachar. Even Nisuch HaYayin you could do the night after. But only b'di'evet. Because l'chatchila you're supposed to do it with a carbon.
Because that's a din of the carbon. Over here, the whole sukkah is the first.
You're right. But the Zman of Nisuch HaMayim, l'chatchila was said during the carbon. When you do the yayin, together with the yayin, you do the mayim. But because it's be'etzem choivas hayayin, so therefore you can do it the night before. This is Parshat and Allah. Alavai alle wollten gefragt also. What does this mean? Every concept in Allah is expressed in Avodas Hashem. Every person in their life has night and day. Day is when the sun shines, everything is beautiful. Night is when it gets a little dark. It's a finster. It's dark. There's an eclipse. We just had an eclipse and the hurricanes didn't stop. The eclipse came and the hurricanes came in their aftermath with earthquake, with hurricane. Life sometimes gets eclipsed. Somebody who lives only with Nisuch HaYayin, that's during the day. By day he can prevail. Because what is wine? Wine has a taste. Wine is royal. Wine is rich. Wine is a delicacy. Wine is beautiful. Wine has a color and a fragrance and a taste as explained. When it's daytime, and he has all the stimulation that comes from great, exhilarating moments. Wine is exhilarating to the brain, stimulating to the heart, uplifting to the mind. It has an impact on your chemicals, hopefully a positive one. A person is, by day, he could pour the wine and celebrate. But when there's night, when there's a challenging moment, when you just lost your tefillin and you lost your esrog, and what competed with your esrog? A kompot and applesauce. Here's where you need Nisuch HaYayin. Nisuch HaMayim can be by night also. The power of Nisuch HaMayim is that Yiddishkeit doesn't have a particular color or taste or fragrance. You're not addicted to a particular comfort zone or structure. What does God look like? You're open to infinity. You're open to dveikus. You're open to truth. And that's every moment. Every moment gives you that gift. Night and day. Sagt Chazal, say Chazal, Kol mi shelo simchas Bais Hashoava lo simcha. To be able to experience real simcha, you have to experience Simchas Bais Hashoava. If not, you're always looking for the next high. Simchas Bais Hashoava teaches you how to get drunk on life itself, every moment. Why? Because when you're thirsty for truth, when you're thirsty for Hashem, who is undefined by any color, by any taste, by any image. It doesn't look, Yiddishkeit doesn't have to look a certain way. Doesn't always look the same way. Al yehei kosher ke'erez of the Bashan. Rach kekona. Sometimes right now Hashem wants this, and an hour later he wants this. I'm flexible. Kol koyma lefanecha tishtachava. I don't only kneel. I'm not attached with strings. I'm not birds. I'm not trapped by what I call religion, which can also be a trap. It's not about an image. Then, when you have that simoy and that thirst for emes the kite, then there's nothing as delicious as water. There's nothing as beautiful as water. There's nothing as exciting, inebriating as water. Chayim.